He was 7. It's been an honor and a pleasure, man. I don't have the words.
When the opportunity arose to play for Coach Tomlin and wear the Pittsburgh Steelers uniform, I was so excited, and now I'm here and just ready to roll and get to it.
The Pittsburgh Steelers select Kenny Pickett, quarterback.
I'm just incredibly grateful for the opportunity. I'm excited to get to work.
We're about to make you a Pittsburgh Steeler, brother. And we all bear a little bit of responsibility of the culture that we're working on here.
Without further ado, I'm happy to introduce Omar Khan as the next general manager of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I understand the expectations. It's been all about football and building a championship roster here, and that's not going to change.
We got work to do. We're excited about meeting the challenges of getting this season started.
This AFC North battle has everything that a fan could want.
Here we go.
This pass is caught, and that's a touchdown.
That's the way to work. Come on.
He's hit and sacked. The Steelers win the football game.
Let's go. Come get it. You know what it is.
This one is in the history books.
Here we go.
Welcome to the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show.
Happy week 1, everybody, and welcome to another season of the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show. I'm Missy Matthews. The Steelers will be celebrating their 90th anniversary as an organization, as well as the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception. But 2022 will also bring about a lot of change. From the quarterback position to the front office, all eyes will be on the football field and what happens there. It all kicks off tomorrow against the reigning AFC champs. For more on that, let's welcome in Bob Pompiani, who's with Coach Tomlin, to talk about the season opener. Guys?
All right, Missy, thanks very much. It's always good to get things going. Here we are, week number 1, and you jump right into the frying pan. AFC North football, Coach Tomlin, I know you're excited about this. Just your thoughts about the season in general.
You know, I'm excited. I'm always optimistic. I look forward to it, to be quite honest with you. You know, I need this unrest in my life. I need the challenges that the journey presents, and I'm excited about doing it with this group.
So quarterback situation, obviously under scrutiny all preseason, for that matter, back to the offseason. This is the first time you haven't had Ben Roethlisberger, and you're going with Mitch Trubisky. Why Mitch? And your backup is Kenny Pickett, and there was some clerical information earlier in the week about that.
Yeah. Last things first, the clerical mistake. We just listed the depth chart in the same manner that it was listed when we started camp, and so we didn't make the change. And so we've made the change now, and Kenny's number 2 and Rudolph's number 3. Talking about the process and why Mitch. First of all, let me say this. I thought all 3 quarterbacks performed above the line, and you want to make decisions based on what people are doing as opposed to what people are not doing. And so that made the process fun. As competitive and professional as all 3 were, as productive as all 3 were. The fact that all 3 took care of the football in stadium, I think really made the process a fun one. The deciding factors in terms of Mitch being the guy, not only his quality of play, but his experience, his life experience, his experience at being a franchise quarterback. He's walked into the building and been that guy before. He's comfortable in those shoes. He's had success in those circumstances. He had a winning record in Chicago, and he's shown signs of those capabilities and being really comfortable with those responsibilities since he's been here. And I think at the end of the day, coupled with his mobility, that's why we're extremely comfortable with where we are.
When Kenny Pickett was drafted, you said, we got our guy. What did he show you in this preseason that made you jump over Mason Rudolph in the depth chart?
The acceleration of his maturation and development. I think once we start getting into stadiums, boy, you felt him get better in a hurry. And it's reasonable to expect that growth and development to continue now that we're in the season. And so we're excited about the overall trajectory of Kenny and what he's been able to do. But his ability to process and make timely decisions in stadium and improve upon that as we repeatedly stepped into the stadiums was confirmation of his position.
You spent a lot of time working on the run game, both sides of it. Let's talk first about your offensive line. Najee Harris, captain in his 2nd year. That's a pretty good endorsement from you. What concerns do you have about the run game now vis-a-vis the offensive line?
Lack of cohesion, but we'll continually answer that as we proceed through the journey that is the season. It's reasonable to expect us to get better over the long haul, not only because we got young players, but because we got new players, guys that are new to Pittsburgh. And Najee missed a significant amount of time during team development. So there's a cohesion component there to be developed. All the while, we better be varsity, we better be good enough, obviously, to secure victory. But I think it's reasonable to expect us to be a group in development in those areas because of known variables.
You got a couple of guys who've made impacts. Jalen Warren one, but I want to talk about George Pickens. He came in the second round. He looks like, talk about moving right up and the stadium lights not being too bright for him. What was your take on him? And as a first-year player, natural expectations would be what for him?
You know, he's got freaky talent, and so I'm never surprised when those guys burst onto the scene, whether it's, on our team in the way that Chase Claypool did. I think he had 10 touchdowns his rookie year, or globally in the way that Chase in Cincinnati did a year ago. It happens at that position, and Pickens has quality talent, and so it's not out of the realm of possibility that he's capable of making a splash like that. And we've seen signs of it. He routinely made spectacular plays in a training camp-like setting, and so I think we're all excited about where he is and where he could go. And I think that's the component of it that excites me most, is that he brings a good spirit to the work. He's a smart guy, he's a quick learner, and so it's reasonable to expect him to build upon the things that we've seen already.
You got a defense that has some really big-time players on it. You use the word dominant. Going into the season, expound upon that. How dominant can they be? And if things need to improve in certain areas, where would they be?
They'll write that story. The consistency of our play will determine the level of dominance, our ability to deliver in the significant moments, to make the critical plays at the critical times. That's what great players do. That's what great units do. And so they'll write that story. All I was acknowledging is that we definitively have the experience, the talent, and the ingredients to do it. And it's a reasonable expectation for those things to transpire. I know if we're going to be the type of team that we need to be, those are some components, some dominoes that have to fall, if you will.
Defense is going to have a test right off the bat because Cincinnati is on the schedule. In fact, the first 2 of 3 games are against AFC North competition. When we come back, we'll talk to Coach Tomlin about the Bengals coming off a Super Bowl run. Missy, let's head back to you.
All right, and we'll have to see how the Steelers under new defensive coordinator Terrell Austin handle Joe Cool and his plethora of skill players. The Steelers and Bengals are one of 6 division matchups on tap for kickoff weekend. Bob and Coach will break it all down for us as we continue on the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show.
We're trying to be a world championship caliber team. It's going to require us to be special in all 3 phases, and those are our intentions.
I think they've got really good personnel across the board. They got a lot of strengths there, a lot more strengths than weaknesses, that's for sure.
Anytime week 1, it's always huge to be able to start off on the right foot, but let alone it's AFC North football.
Yeah, we're excited to show the work we put in. We have a lot of hardworking players that put in a lot of work throughout the offseason, so I'm excited to show it.
Welcome back to the 84 Lumber Mike Tomlin Show.
In just his second NFL season, Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow not only ended his team's 31-year playoff win drought, he did so by taking them to the Super Bowl. He was the most sacked quarterback in 2021, and this offseason they retooled his offensive line. For more on this AFC North matchup, let's check back in with Bob and Coach. Guys.
All right, Missy, thanks very much. It's the Cincinnati Bengals right off the bat. Last year was Buffalo right off the bat, and the Steelers went up there and came away with a win. This is a tough team. This is a team that's growing into what they are, which was a Super Bowl contending team. Do you like jumping right into a game like this right off the bat?
You got to play them all. You got to beat them all. So why not get to it? Kind of is my mentality. I love going into a hostile environment and being challenged in the ways that we were challenged a year ago and we're being challenged here. You're not afforded an opportunity to warm up to the competition sometimes. And I think those challenges, those adversities bring the best out in us as competitors.
So what is it about this team now? Joe Burrow put together quite a second season. They have playmakers all over the place. He said, quote, "You got to pick your poison if you look at us." Is he accurate with that?
I think it goes beyond Joe Burrow and their collection of talent, and it's cultural as well. I think Coach Taylor's been there now going into his 4th year, and they've laid some foundational things. They've got some continuity, and I think it's reasonable to expect growth with those things. And so, yes, there's been some significant acquisitions of players in all 3 phases, but that steady guiding hand, that culture that they're building, I think you feel that, particularly as they add players. And so, I think those are major components that have them moving in the direction that they're moving. It takes talent, but it also takes a level of continuity and consistency from a decision-making standpoint that allows things to mature in the right ways.
Specifically, Joe Burrow looks to have that sort of it factor, a guy who's coming into something. What is it about him that makes him so good?
I think it's his, you never want to disrespect his physical talents because they're obviously unique and special. But what he does from a decision-making standpoint, his competitive spirit, the timeliness of his decision-making are the things that kind of separates him from most. And that's often the case at the quarterback position. Their talents are their talents, their competitive spirit, their intellect, the speed in which they make decisions in game-like circumstances when it gets really thick, kind of defines them. And he is a cool guy when he gets really thick.
And they have a run game that not many people talk about. They spend time talking about the pass game. There's so many great options. But Joe Mixon is one of those guys who can be highly effective. And I would imagine your preparation starts from maybe stopping their run game.
No question. And much like I've been talking about in other areas, Joe's a guy that's kind of been there for a while now. And so he has both youth and experience. And so they have the type of continuity that allows those things to develop. They understand him as a runner and what he does. He understands how to put his skill set into the schematics of what they do. And it's been a steady progress over the course of his time there. And so there's something to be contended there with as well.
All right, as far as getting pressure on him, do you get kind of crazy with that schematically, or I'm talking about Joe Burrow now, or do you just play a zone kind of approach? What's the best way to defend him?
I don't think you can do too much of anything and expect it to be extremely successful versus a guy with his experience and intellect. It's going to require a mix, no doubt. And once we get in game, we'll get a sense of maybe what's working for us and what the appropriate mix is that day. But anytime you're playing the elite quarterbacks, you're dropping a lot of lines in the water because that's what's required in an effort to neutralize them.
All right, as far as your offense now, you're going against a pretty good defense. They brought in Hendrickson from New Orleans, very good player. Hubbard had made some plays, I think, in the AFC Championship game. What do you do to help your offensive line? What do they have to do to be successful against that defense?
We got to mix things up as well on that side as well. They're a fundamentalist group. They got good players at all levels. You mentioned their edge rush tandem, but can't say enough about Mike Hilton and what his acquisition has meant to their sub-package football. Their safety tandem and Bates and Von Bell are also really good. So they've got continuity. They've got players that are really good at all levels. They're fundamentally sound. And so it's going to require a mix from us. We can't give them a steady diet of one particular thing. We got to change the launch point. We got to drop back pass and throw it on rhythm. We got to stretch the field vertically. We got to misdirect pass. We got to run the ball. We got to have a nice mix of all the tools in our toolbox in an effort to keep them off balance and keep the chains moving.
For years, and it still exists, the Steelers are the quote hunted team. People want to play your best against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Cincinnati now finds themselves. Is there a difference, if you're not necessarily used to it, to being in that position?
I don't know, man. I've been in those shoes so long. I love it. I love when I hear people say we're playing the Steelers, so you know what that means. There's responsibility that comes with that, no doubt, and I educate our team to it, particularly the young guys. But man, we wear that honor humbly, and we look to confirm it each and every week. And so I respect the Joneses and what's going on with them, but we're focused on being the Pittsburgh Steelers and delivering that level of consistency in terms of what our product looks like.
And that product will be on display week 1 against the Cincinnati Bengals, probably one of the most watched games you're going to find in the NFL. When we come back, Coach Tomlin will talk about the keys to winning in Cincinnati. Missy, let's head back to you.
No doubt this will be a must-see game, Bob, especially after the Bengals swept the Steelers last season for the first time since 2009. Coming up right after this break, Merrill Hodge welcomes us back into his Factorback studio to draw up a playbook on one of the newest Steelers additions, inside linebacker Myles Jack. Don't go anywhere. It's time now for our Yins Chat trivia question. In Steelers history, were more players drafted from the University of Kentucky or the University of Florida? Welcome back. Naturally, a lot of attention has been on new Steelers quarterback Mitch Trubisky following the retirement of Ben Roethlisberger. But the team's defense is also looking to turn a new leaf. In 2021, they didn't rank in the top 20 in total defense, and stopping the run plagued them all season. Can newcomer Myles Jack help turn things around? Merrill Hodge investigates in this week's playbook.
Hi everyone, and welcome into the Factorback Studios for Week 1. Football is finally back for the AccuSure Playbook. Now listen, there's a lot of new faces on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. Hard to pick just one. However, we did it. We're staying on the defensive side. Myles Jack, inside linebacker. I remember when he was coming out of college, a couple things that stood out right away. Very versatile, could play inside, outside. Fundamentally, very good, and he's a hunter. He's great at attacking the run. So that is where we're going to start, him versus the run. Especially with the Steelers struggling in that last year, having a guy that can play inside linebacker against the run is going to be critical. So let's take a look at the preseason, because that'll give you some evidence of it. Now here's just a great example of a double team. This is pretty staple stuff in the National Football League. However, as an inside linebacker, you have to play it right. You got to get up here and free up your buddy. You got 2-on-1, linebacker's responsibility, free this up, along with watch this runner. Now that's not an easy thing. Not everybody executes that perfectly. Myles Jack does here right. Watch the snap of the ball. As soon as we snap the ball, get that double team come off. Now he does a couple things very well. First of all, he gets up the line of scrimmage to help free that up. But he never loses sight of the backfield. And then what a great job here of maneuvering and getting outside that double team and into the backfield, making the tackle. Just a great job of hunting the line of scrimmage, attacking the line of scrimmage, and getting to the ball carrier. The other aspect of the running game is sometimes guys are going to block you. It's just one-on-one, and you got to be able to handle it. So when you look at this big guard coming off here, I want you to watch Myles Jack and how he handles this right off the bat. Boy, that's rising blow. Man, he strikes up here, and then he separates and gets to the ball carrier. I mean, that's just a beautiful job, and that's exactly how you got to play the run. You got to be able to play inside like that. Now, eventually, you're going to have to cover people in the passing game. Great example here. Trying to create a matchup. Wide receivers right here. Myles Jack right here. I want you to watch how he plays this. As we snap the ball, watch his positioning. Okay, he plays inside here. Now, he wants this receiver to go outside. If he comes inside, then he can attack him right away. And he's sitting there perfectly in pursuit of that. Yes, they complete the ball, but he's in a position to make the tackle. And that's all you can ask for your inside linebacker, is to play the run and pass like that. Listen, one guy does not make a defense, but one guy can make a big difference in a defense, and that could be Myles Jack, especially in the running game.
Yeah, thanks, Merrill. And their first test will come tomorrow against Bengals running back Joe Mixon. But for Pittsburgh to secure a victory, it's going to take a total team effort. And for more on how they can do that, it's time for your Keys to the Game presented by your neighborhood Ford store with Bob and Coach. Guys.
All right, Missy, it's always a great matchup when Cincinnati and Pittsburgh play. Some of the best games, some of the best moments we've seen over the years. So this is going to be a tremendous game to watch. But from a coaching standpoint, Mike, what is the number one thing you have to do to win on the road in a place like that?
We can't turn the ball over. Possession of the ball is significant regardless of circumstance. But particularly when you're going into an environment like we're going into, and particularly given the recent history of the nature of this matchup. Last year, we turned the ball over in bunches in both games, and that's why the games weren't close. we got to take care of the ball. If we take care of the ball, it'll give it an opportunity for a game to develop and those weighty plays to mean something and to really feel the ebb and flow of football. But it starts first and foremost with taking care of the football.
You have two good kickers in this game. Obviously, your guy, Chris Boswell, they have a guy who's turned out to be quite a kicker in Evan McPherson. These games over the years, I've looked back, some of them come down right to a field goal. And field position, therefore, becomes extremely important.
The special team component of this matchup is a significant one and has its own storied history, to be quite honest with you. They've got big-time continuity in that phase. Their special teams coordinator has been there over 15 years. Their snapper and punter are both 14, 15 years in. And so the nature of that matchup, how those two units come together, has always created fireworks. And there's been some really special moments from a special teams perspective in the history of this matchup. And no question, it's going to be a big component of this game, provided the turnovers don't tell the story.
You're one of the most tenured guys in the NFL. You still get pumped for these games. I see it in your practices. Does it ever get old for you at all?
It doesn't, because the variables don't. Najee, man, is a young, exciting guy that I'm working with. Pickens is a young, excited guy that I'm working with. Larry O is new to us. Miles Jack is new to us. When the pieces continually change and you're nurturing and developing individual relationships with those people, how can it get old and stale? Particularly as you face some of the challenges that you face. The challenges change and get new and exciting every year, and the people that you get to do it alongside do as well. And so it's really fun.
NFL Week 1 is here. Best of luck.
Thanks,
Coach.
Thank you.
All right, that's going to do it for the Mike Tomlin Show this week. Join us tomorrow on Game Day. We'll be on the air 11:30 in the morning with our pregame show. We follow with 2 hours of postgame. It should be quite a game. Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. Get ready for an outstanding season of Steelers football on KDKA. Thanks for joining us. We'll do it again next Saturday night, 11:35, for another edition of the Mike Tomlin Show.